This week is this week's Parshas Vaera. So to say a few words about this week's Parsha here from Yerushalayim Yer Kodesh. So the Parsha starts off with a pasuk that says, "Vayidaber Elokim el Moshe." Elokim speaks to Moshe. It says to him, Elokim speaks to Moshe. It says, "Vayomer el Vani Hashem." It says, "You shall know that I am Hashem." That's what the pasuk says. So let's try to understand what this means. So before we get into it, let's, as a general introduction, we have to understand that in life, there's always a person that's alive. It means that a person that's growing, it's moving. So life always has to go further, has to get us to a higher place, to a deeper place, to a more expansive place, a higher level of understanding, a more expansive, wider way of feeling and being in this world. And that's the way we know we're alive. But in order for us to grow, in order, in order for us to evolve into our greatest potential, we have to continuously break out of our past, very rigid and closed and boxed in certain paradigms of the past, the certain types of shells, klipa, that hold us back, that are concealing our full potential. And we have to break through those shells, break through those concealments, and that allows for a type of higher level of birth. And in life, there are essentially two ways how this process could unfold. One is that we can consciously, mindfully, chesed and racham, with kindness and compassion, choose this path, choose to leave our comfort zone, choose to push ourselves beyond the boundaries that we normally assume are our boundaries, whether these are physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, spiritual boundaries, mental boundaries, to push ourselves. And that's the way we do it on our own, and we break ourselves. And that's not really, that's the work, the inner, deeper work that we have to do. And the pushing ourselves and breaking ourselves of those restrictions, of those our comfort zones, so to speak, allows us to push ourselves into something that's new, to birth ourselves into a much higher, stronger, and more powerful self, and brings all this, the miraculous and the unfolding of our life into a much higher, more expansive way. This is one path where we're choosing it. So we're choosing to do the work. On the other hand, if a person doesn't choose, like the Gemara speaks about Haman, if a person doesn't choose, then Hashem will choose it for us. And the way Hashem will choose it for us is that the world, the universe, will appear to us to create certain situations that are very difficult or challenging for us. And the purpose of these challenges, the purpose of these hardships that we're going through is sort of to break down, the purpose is to break down our ego, to break down our resistance to birthing ourselves into a higher place. And those things will compel us, they'll force us into more expansive states. So again, either we can choose to do it on our own. And when we choose to do it on our own, what this deeply means is that we see that everything in our lives is Hashem talking to us, the Creator is talking to us and helping us. Hashem is helping us along this path of our evolvement. And therefore the movement and the hardships is almost self-inflicted. We create those challenges, those pushing ourselves to go beyond our comfort zone, whatever that practice is, whatever that way of being in this world is, to push ourselves, maybe to give a little bit extra charity, or to daven with a little bit more intention, or that we normally do, or to a little bit more Torah, to be a little bit more kind, to push ourselves that little small step. That's the way we do it, and that's the way we recognize that we're constantly in dialogue and we're moving further along this path. Or sometimes the world appears to us, and the light of the Creator, the light of Hashem appears to us in a way that seems to be harsh, in a harsh form. And structurally, the way the Torah describes this is the plagues, the 10 makas, the 10 plagues, that 10 punishments that sort of brought the people, Klal Yisrael and the Egyptian, both people, to V'yada K'ni Hashem, to the awareness of the existence of Hashem, the hashgacha, the awareness that Hashem cares about the details and the Yichud Hashem, the idea of the unification of Hashem. So that's sort of that moves us into that direction. So that's the process is that life itself presents itself in a very harsh way, and that forces us to break out of those small conditions, and to open ourselves into something more. In the structure, the way the Torah describes the whole idea of Mitzrayim is the idea of Metzer, a place of constriction, and a place that we were stuck both as slaves and as slave owners. And the slave owners were both stuck in their paradigm, stuck in their way of being. So, in order to move to a place where they can recognize and be aware of the Koil Hashem, the word of Hashem, the Aseres HaDibros, 10 utterances, the 10 speeches, or the 10 Dibbur, the 10 communications, translated as the 10 Commandments. In order for that to be revealed, it first has to go through the process of the breaking down of the ego, of the resistance, through the 10 sfirot, the 10 parallel sfirot of the 10 makas, the 10 makas. But let's try to understand this a little bit more deeper. So this is the general idea. So let's go back to the pasuk. The pasuk opens up. The verse opens up in this week's parsha. Vayidaber Elokim Moshe, Vayomer Elav Ani Hashem. Elokim speaks to Moshe, saying that I am Hashem. So what exactly does it mean? Elokim is telling Moshe and telling him that I am Hashem. So there's two names of Hashem. The most dominant names of Hashem in the Torah. One is the name Elokim, and one is the name Hashem. Elokim represents judgment, a justice. Even Elokim, that even the idea in the Torah is even the word Elokim could appear in terms of human justice. So that's why Elokim is in the language of the plural. Kel is power of the many, of Elah, of the many. This is the name of Elokim, of Gvura, of restriction, of judgment, and the name of Hashem, which is the name that's connected to Tiferes, which is compassion. The name of Hashem of compassion. So Elokim tells the Moshe that I am Hashem. Now that phrase, Vayomer Elav Ani Hashem, that phrase, he tells him, Vayomer Elav, he speaks to him and says, I am Hashem, does not appear in the Torah any other times. It's the only time this structure appears in the Torah. It appears one other time, similar in the story with Avram, but over there in Bereshis, in chapter 15, 7, over there, the pasuk, there's a asnachta, there's a separation, which means Vayomer Elav, and he spoke to him, and then said, Ani Hashem, I am Hashem. But over here, Vayomer Elav Ani Hashem is said as one statement. He spoke to him and said that I am Hashem. So let's try to understand what this idea is. So we have the idea in this pasuk, there's Vayomer Elav, and he spoke to him in the word of Amira, and there's Vayidaber. Vayidaber, he spoke to him, he spoke to Moshe, Vayidaber Elokim Moshe, Elokim spoke to Moshe, and Vayomer. So there's two phrases the way we define speech. One is a Dibbur and one is an Amira. What's the difference between Dibbur and Amira? So Dibbur, generally Chazal tells us, the Gemara says in Makasir Alf, the Gemara says that the word Dibbur, called Dibbur Lashon Kasha, the word Dibbur means something that is harsh. It's like a strong statement. That's Dibbur. The Ksav Kabbalah explains that that doesn't mean that the Torah always refers to Dibbur in like a harsh judgment way or something that's negative. It brings on certain psukim, Azadab Yir Hashem, and there's other psukim where it speaks about Dibbur, Vaydabra Lev and Amira. You can speak also very kindly, but Dibbur means that the word Dibbur means to exaggerate, to starkly point out this type of speech. So it's like a strong statement, if you wish. So that's Dibbur. The Amira, which is very parallel. So you have like the Aseres of Dibros, and you have the Aseres Asar Mamoras. You have the 10 utterances. Amira, in contrast to Dibbur, Amira is Racha, is a gentle. So Vayidaber Elokim speaks, and that's Lashon Kasha, that's harsh. So that's the judgment, the name of judgment speaking a harsh language. And Hashem, Vayomer Elav Ani Hashem, Vayomer is the Rach, the more softer language, and there the name of Hashem appears as Hashem. So what does those words mean, and what exactly is being communicated to Moshe at this time? So the Abir Yaakov, which we celebrate his yahrzeit these days, writes in his commentary on the Torah that the word Elokim, this says already. It says already in the Pardes, and already is a source of this earlier, that the word Elohim is numerically is 86. That's why it's also the numeric value is the word of the Teva as nature. So Elohim is 86. Ani Hashem, the words Vayemer Elohim, Vaydaber Elohim Moshe. Elohim speaks to Moshe. It says Vayemer Elav, and he speaks to him saying Ani Hashem. The words Ani Hashem is 87. So Elohim is telling Moshe that you should know that Elohim is Hashem, that there's a number of equivalents. That Elohim says Elohim is the world of judgment, the world of harshness, the world of concealment, which is connected also to the idea of creation, the olam malashon hel, the world created from the language. The world in Hebrew comes from the word concealment. The world that Elohim says, you should know that what you seeing as concealment, Elohim, you're seeing the revelation of the divine that appears to you in a way of concealment. You should know that Ani Hashem, I am Hashem, that Elohim is Hashem. They're one and the same. This is the numeric value of 86. This is the numeric value of 87, which is with the koila, with the word in itself. So you have the 87, which means Elohim is saying that I am Hashem. What appears to you to be Elohim, you should know that it's really Hashem. That's why the word Kli Hashem, the vessel, similar to the word Ani, but Kli has one less in value, is because Kli is 60 next to 61, is the numeric value of 86. So what is Elohim? What is the world of nature, the mask of nature, the concealment of nature? That the concealment of nature is essentially the divine, the infinite one, the miraculous one, the transcendent one that reveals itself within the workings of nature, and it's one and the same. The Kli Hashem is Elohim. The vessel that reveals on Hashem's light in this world is the idea of Elohim. Let's go a little bit deeper. There's a difference also between the word Dibbur and Amira. Dibbur, we said, is kasha, but kasha says laflaga sa'inyan, like in the Ksava Kabbalah said, which means to exaggerate the idea or to stress the point. Dibbur is symbolic of conversation, of intimacy. In Hebrew, if you want to say someone spoke to someone, so you say hu diber alav, he's speaking to him. This represents an intimate conversation. The Mishnah, for example, in Ksuvas, the first chapter says, if you see someone speaking to somebody in the marketplace, so the Bartanura writes, and this is based on the Gemara, that Medaberes, when it says that she was speaking to him, this means that that she was intimate with him. So the idea of Dibbur is conversation and representative of the idea of intimacy. Amira, you cannot say hu Amar imo. You cannot say the word Amira, Amar, with him. Hu Amar lo. You can say he spoke to him. Dibbur hu diber imo. He spoke with him. Amira, it cannot be spoken with, but it can be spoken at. So Dibbur represents communication and dialogue and intimacy. You're speaking with. Amira is you're speaking at. That's a very big distinction. One is a relationship, and one is sort of a top-down type of conversation, speaking at somebody. If you look at the beginning of creation, like I mentioned before, that there's asar mamaros. The Mishnah says in Avos that the world was created with these asar mamaros. The world was created through these Amira, and a mimer was connected. The mimer that was connected, the Amira that was connected with the creation of the universe, was the name that's connected with the Mamaros, with these utterances, is the name of Elohim. So Elohim, Bereshis bar Elohim, that's why the name Elohim appears 32 times in the beginning of Bereshis, and the name of Hashem doesn't appear until later on, until in chapter 2. The name Elohim represents the creation. Creation as Hashem talking at creation. Or more than that, Hashem is creating the world through the process of speech. But the creation is not in dialogue. This creation is spoken to, spoken at, not spoken with. Hashem is speaking the world into being. And the world is. It's not a dialogue. It's not a conversation. The world doesn't have an autonomous reality that it's in dialogue with the Creator. But the sense that you're feeling within creation, that's why it's connected to the name of Elohim, also constriction. and concealment is because what you're sensing is that Hashem says this is the way it should be, Elohim says this is the way it should be, Kuhu Omvayeh, and this is the way it is. That's the idea of one way of our relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Our relationship to Hashem is that it's through Amira. We see the world speaking to us. I'm sorry, speaking at us. That's harsh. We're not seeing the dialogue. We're feeling that there's negative things that are happening to us, not for us and not with us, but to us. That's the idea of Amira. That's one way of creation. Then there is the Aseres HaDibros, the revelation at Sinai. And the revelation of Sinai was that we're no longer experiencing Elohim, that Hashem is talking at us, but Hashem is talking to us. There's a conversation. There's a dialogue. That we're in conversation with Hashem, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're in conversation with the Creator. We're becoming a shutaf l'maaseh b'reish. This is the sense that we're in dialogue. So to move from a place of the Creator talking at to the Creator talking with, and from the recipient end, from us to perceive the world in a way that we're not being talked at, but we're being talked with, which is a very different way of thinking about the way we're going through challenges. When we're feeling that we're being talked at, we feel like we don't have any control. This is the situation, and it's forced upon us, and things are happening to us by higher forces, ultimately by the highest force of the universe, which is the Creator. But then there's another way that we relate to life, that we feel like we're involved, we're engaged, and it's a process of our own development. And then we stop feeling it as a concealment. We stop feeling it as Elohim, but we start feeling it as the name of Hashem talking with us. And that's why it's Hashem that's always talking to us. The name of Hashem is not only the name of revelation, but it's also the name of communication. The name that Hashem communicates with Klal Yisrael in the Torah is through the name of Hashem generally, because that's personal. That's in a collective way it's personal, but that's the idea of intimacy. In order to go from that place of Amira to Dibbur, in order to go to the place from feeling being talked at to be talked with in conversation, which is a process of growth, like we started the conversation, which is that sometimes we feel that there's certain difficulties in our life. Again, we can choose to do this, and we can create these movements to go beyond our comfort zone to create those realities. Or sometimes we can wait for those things to happen to us. And when they happen to us, there's a repetitive pattern that keeps on happening. The same negative things, the same things that we keep on getting stuck on constantly happens to us because there's certain resistance of the ego. It doesn't want to grow from the experience. And then finally, it breaks us, so to speak, and it forces us to become more. This is the same process. This is the same development that happens with Klal Yisrael and with the slaves and the slave owners, with the Egyptians. In the story of the Exodus, the story of the going out of Mitzrayim, there was a process. Like the pasuk says very clearly that it's a process l'man yedu, that both you and both the slaves and the slave owner, both Klal Yisrael and the people of Egypt, will understand that Ani Hashem. They'll come to awareness of the relationship to the Creator is not just Elohim being spoken at, that Hashem is talking at the creation, but Hashem is talking to. That's why it's the name that's connected to revelation, like the Ramban writes. And in order to go through this process, there was a breaking down of the ego, of this resistance, and that was reflected in the 10 makas, which correspond to the 10 negative reflections of the spheres. Or to say it a little differently, we explored this in the past, it represents the imbalance of the spheres. When there's too much of chesed, it represents where there's too much of gur, there's too much of netzach. Those are the imbalances. There's too much of loyalty turns into blood, and there's too much of connection turns into tzfardeh, turns into callousness. Each one represents the sphere in itself in its unbalanced form, and it breaks open the self, it breaks open the ego and that resistance. And then finally, we can have the experience that we're speaking with Hashem, and that's dialogue. By Daber Lakim, Lakim says, "Vayomer Elav Ani Hashem." Lakim speaks to Moshe and says, "You should know, Vayomer Elav Ani Hashem." He says, "Ani Am Hashem." That Vayomer is speaking at him, and here's the flip side of these things. That Vayedaber Elokim, which is the idea which is judgment, is saying that I am the one that's the medaber. I'm the one that's speaking with you, not just speaking at you, and you feel that as Elohim. And therefore, the word the Vayomer Elav, he speaks to him and says, Ani Hashem, and he speaks to him and says the words Ani Hashem. The words Vayomer Elav Ani Hashem, which we said is a very unique phrase in the Torah. It only appears one other time, and even over there, when it appears other time in the story of Avram, it's not read as Vayomer Elav Ani Hashem, but Vayomer Elav, pause, Ani Hashem. He revealed to him and he says, I am Hashem. But Vayomer Elav Ani Hashem, that complete phrase in numeric value in Gematria is 391, which is the same numeric value as the word panim al panim, face to face. Because what is Ani Hashem saying? What is Hashem is telling us? Hashem is telling us that Hashem is saying that He's in a relationship. That Kadosh Baruch Hu is in a relationship with us. That we're in a panim, we're in a face-to-face dialogue. The relationship with creation on its own, without us, is a relationship that Vayomer Elokim Yor, Hashem Elokim says it should be light, and it is light. Talking at creation, it's not dialogue. Or in the language of the Ari, it's acher ba'acher, it's back to back. It's top-down relationship. And that's really not a relationship because you're being talked at. The higher idea of creation, the deeper revelation that happened at Sinai, which opened up the portal for all that, for the entire history. That was the opening of that conversation. The opening, Kol Gadol Yosef, there was this voice that reverberated throughout all of time. The sound of Sinai, the sound of dialogue. That's what he says. Vayomer Elav Ani Hashem. This is panim al panim. This is face-to-face relationship. Now we have a different way of relating to Hashem. Not only that we're relating to Hashem in a way that we feel being talked at, but we're talking with. It's a face-to-face. Face-to-face relationship means that I am present and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is present and Hashem is present, and we're facing each other. We're looking at each other and we're in dialogue with each other. And that's the depth of what Hashem is telling him, because that is what will be the ultimate objective. Panim al panim Dibbur, when we're going to experience finally in the story of the unfolding of the going out of Mitzrayim, going out of Egypt, will be the unfolding of when Klal Yisrael finally reached Matan Torah, reached the receiving of the Torah, which is the revealing of the Aseres HaDibros. Dibur is Rum Medaberes, Mechad B'Shuk. The Echad means with the one and only, with in the Shuk, Kama Yosef, in the place of the Shuk, in the place of this world that we're having in Medaberes and Mechad B'Shuk, we're speaking to the one, even in the place of the Shuk, even in the place of the marketplace. We're speaking to Hashem, no matter where we are in this world, no matter the situation, and no matter what thing that we're going through, no matter what it appears to be, that is just the Shuk of Alma, just seems to be like a marketplace of concealment and heder and absence of divinity. We are in any situation, we are open and privy and giving the gift to be in that place, of the Shuk that we are, and to be in a place of Medaberes, Dibbur, to speak and to have conversation and dialogue, to recognize that Hashem is talking to us through the workings of creation, through our lives, through the things that we're going through the friends. When we see people and people talk to us, and we see things and we hear things and we're impressionable and we're taking with all our senses. What's really occurring is panim al panim Dibbur. Hashem is talking to us. Hashem is having a conversation with us, and Hashem wants us to be participatory conversationalists in this unfolding of this great magnitude, of this great majesty of creation. And ultimately, that's what happens at the receiving of the Torah. It was a panim al panim level, and that's the Vayomer Elav Ani Hashem. And that's what Hashem tells him, that what I'm revealing to you now, it will be revealed as you're going out of Mitzrayim. You're going to go from the Dibbur, you're going to break out, going from Amira, you're going to break out of that. And from Aseret Mamaros, you're going to come to a place of Aseret Dibbur. You're going to come to a place where you're going to be able to recognize within the Aseret, the 10 spheres, within the workings of creation, which the whole idea of the 10 spheres is the beginning and the middle, and the beginning and the middle of each dimension, and then the collection of the whole that contains the other 9 in that space of the fullness of creation. In the world, that's where we're going to hear the dialogue with Hashem. We're going to see that it's panim al panim Dibbur, that Hashem is talking to us through every single thing. And the moment we recognize that, the moment we realize that Elohim and Hashem is one and the same, the Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, that Hashem, who's Elokeinu, Hashem, who is the transcendent one, which is in dialogue, which is the higher level of revelation of the transcendence, is Elohim, is revealed within the workings of nature, and we recognize that it's only one, and everything is just one.